There is no time in our practice when we do not need to make wishing prayers and gather merit and virtue. And in fact, I'd like to continue on that theme for our class today. The obstacles that we find in our lives, the ones that are dreadful to us, that prevent us from really continuing on the path, these are usually due to a lack of merit and the lack of focus that we sometimes feel when we go dry in our practice and aren't really able to continue, aren't really able to stay on point, is generally due to our lack of having really formulated our goals through making wishing prayers. And there's a tremendous gathering of merit that actually happens through making wishing prayers. So one can accomplish two things there. And there, even until, from the very beginning point, where as a child you might first meet the path, or as an adult you might first meet the path, up until 10 minutes before you attain realization, up until that point, it is necessary to make both wishing prayers and to gather together virtue and merit. So there is never a time when that is not necessary. So please take heed of the children's teaching as well. On the path, it seems like we're all children. And one of my favorite comments ever made by a Lama, I think, was made by Trinley Norbu Rinpoche, who is the son of the late Dujum Rinpoche, His Holiness Dujum Rinpoche. Trinley Norbu Rinpoche is known to be one of the greatest lamas alive on the earth now. And I have great respect and devotion for him. And he once said that he's been practicing Dharma all his life and studying it all his life, and he practices and studies so much, he puts most of us to shame. I mean, certainly all of us to shame, but most of the lamas really to shame. He really practices all day long and never ceases. He's remarkable, amazing. And he once said that he feels like he's just starting in Dharma, doesn't know much about Dharma, wishes that he knew more about Dharma, but of the little bit that he knows, he can say this, and then he would give some remarkable nature of mind teaching. So none of us should ever come to the point where we think, oh yeah, Dharma, I've got that nailed down, I know about Dharma. Sure, I know about that. That would be a mistake. So at any rate, I would like to continue with our teaching today. Recently, we had a retreat, and we called it the Compassion Retreat, Part 2. And during that retreat, we did a continuation of what we did in the first Compassion Retreat. We really examined for ourselves the suffering of sentient beings, to really see what it is. That's a very difficult thing to do. Most of us do not wish to do that. We wish to guard our hearts, guard our eyes, not really see what the suffering of sentient beings actually is. We do not wish to see old age. We do not wish to see sickness. We do not wish to see death. We do not wish to see the sufferings of hunger and deprivation or loneliness or any of those things. They are hard to watch. And so the route that we take instead is to guard ourselves, to keep ourselves sort of wrapped in plastic, prevent ourselves from truthfully seeing. But the Buddha teaches us that that is not a good method, that in fact it is necessary for us to really understand the suffering of sentient beings. The point is not to become depressed and melancholy. The point is to have tools. The point is to truly understand. An analogy that can be used is that in life, whether we like it or not, we have to walk through a room. We have to walk through a room that is filled with things. If we walk through that room with our eyes closed and blinders on and the shades drawn and the lights turned off, we cannot see what's in that room. We cannot see the furniture that we have to go over, the doors that we have to go through, the walls that we have to keep away from. We simply cannot see what it is that we have to deal with. And so we're going to go through that room, at best ineffectively, and at worst we'll probably knock ourselves senseless while we're walking through that room. To really examine the suffering of sentient beings and really examine the condition of cyclic existence, it's taught that that's like opening your eyes, taking off the blindfold, opening the shades, turning on the lights, and really seeing for yourself what it is to walk through that room. Then you know to walk over the rug without tripping over it, to walk around the furniture, to really see what's there, not to bump into the walls, not to bump into any other people that are in the room. You really have your wits about you, and you're able to make some sensible and real decisions based on what you see. So it is necessary to understand the condition of cyclic existence, and it is necessary to understand the suffering of sentient beings. And so in this retreat, that's what we did. We spent a great long time doing that. And understanding the condition of cyclic existence, we began as well honestly and deeply and in a very profound way to examine our own condition and how it is that we respond to our own needs and how it is that we respond to the benefit that is extended to us through Dharma. And we began to also uncover for ourselves, discover for ourselves how we might be able to respond. Part of the retreat, especially this last retreat, was learning to respond effectively. For instance, if we were to see the suffering of sentient beings, it isn't enough just to see it. One should be able to help oneself to respond by offering one's body, speech, and mind in whatever way is necessary in order to benefit beings, trying to be of benefit to sentient beings, trying to understand what their suffering is, and if their suffering is that they do not know how to reach happiness, which of course the Buddha teaches us it is. If they do not understand that there is in fact an end to suffering and that that end to suffering is called liberation, if they do not understand that, then we have to respond by trying to demonstrate for them, trying to bring to them the method, the means. And so we ourselves have to accomplish Dharma, and that is the offering that we make, to accomplish Dharma in order to benefit sentient beings, because they too, like us, wish to be happy. And so, having that compassionate intention, that pure intention, we try to gear ourselves and we try to make moves. And then, having geared ourselves, whether unconsciously or consciously, whether in this life or in some previous life, we come to the point where we actually meet the path. And in meeting the path, there are many different kinds of circumstances that arise. Now, last week I talked about some of them. Last week I had a teaching in which I took a different angle on a practice that we actually do in Vajrayana. In Vajrayana, we actually have a devotional yoga that we practice, and within that, it is basically calling the Lama. It is basically paying homage to the Lama, calling the Lama, and there is in fact in the Payul tradition a song that is called Calling the Lama from Afar, that we actually do as part of our practice. This devotional yoga is very potent. It invokes the blessing of the Guru. It creates the method, the pure connection by which the blessing can be transmitted to the student, and the student, through the virtue of their practice, can then blossom and really come forth in some profound and auspicious way. But I took a different angle on that. I talked about what it is like for the Lama when the Lama calls the student from afar. That's, if you understand the Vajrayana point of view, that's never taught. That's kind of a strange little twist, but I guess I'm a strange little Lama. I thought I'd put a little kink in that system and see what we came up with. And what we really looked at was the response that students have when they first meet with the path and the response that they have when they first meet with Dharma. And I would like to continue with that. I would like to exaggerate that. I would like to give examples. I would like to really give a demonstration. So basically today's teaching is going to be in two veins. It is going to continue the process of coming to the path, accepting the path, meeting with the auspicious opportunity, cultivating one's pure intention, and then the response that one has, the reactive formation that actually occurs at the moment when one meets the path. The last time that we had our compassion retreat, it was found to be very effective to use a diagram. I actually used a diagram, a picture, by which to understand how one's mind actually meets the world, how that actually happens. Now, nowhere in the Buddhist canon does this picture exist. So I'm taking total responsibility for this, number one. Number two, I can't draw. Number three, I'm going to draw it on that, and some of you may not be able to see this. So all I can do is hope for the best, and I'm going to ask for your indulgence and your forgiveness. And yet I still think that it's entirely possible, and I think it will be the case, that seeing certain images will help you to understand what happens to you, what it is that happens to you when you do things and respond in ways that you yourself do not understand. Hasn't that happened to you? That you've done things and responded in certain ways that you can't figure out, and you just wonder who the heck that was that just did that? So I would like to show you a little bit of what that can actually be. And I want you to think of this in the same vein as thinking of yourself approaching the path and thinking of the responses that you have had as you approach the path. Now, you shouldn't think that because I'm talking in that way that I'm only talking to people who are just now beginning to practice Vajrayana or people who are just now beginning to practice a spiritual path. That's not true, because every time you make new contact within your heart and within your mind, and every time you come to a new level of depth, you are meeting the path anew. And so that moment continues. It continues every day of your life as a Dharma practitioner. So what is that moment? Mechanically, what does it actually look like? That's what we'd like to examine. So I'm going to hope that all these wires and all this stuff reach over here. Okay. Maybe you could help me move this out a little bit. Okay. So you may need to, I don't know what you need to do. Well, you've seen the picture before. Maybe it's okay if you don't do this. Okay. Please remember, I am not an artist. That was a heck of a first start, wasn't it? That's good. Potential there. Okay. So I want you to think of yourselves as ordinary sentient beings, and I want you to think of where you are at this present moment. In a sense, you are at a crossroads of a time and space grid. Isn't that true? You're in this time, and you can think of maybe a timeline, and you can think of space as being, in a sense, a space line, because it is possible to move through time and it is possible to move through space. And there is a moment that each one of us considers the now moment, and that now moment is like an intersection of time and space and awareness. So it's a multi-level coming together, and you should think of this present moment as that. The difficulty is that we fall asleep, don't we? We kind of fall asleep, not in terms of, like that, really falling asleep, but in terms of having our consciousness or our awareness or our attention more or less going underground. We think, I'm this person and I'm in this body and now I want to eat and now I want to sleep, and you sort of move through your lives in a very accepting and not dynamic way, thinking of taking everything at a very superficial face value. And I want you to change that habit, just at least, if you can manage it forever, that would be nice, but at least for this present moment, change the habit of doing that and actually register that you are at an intersection and that the point of power is the point of intersection. The point of power is right now. So think of yourself as being right here. This is you. In a sense, this is space, and in a sense, you might think of this as being timeline. Of course, timeline, according to the Buddha's teaching, didn't start this morning, and it didn't start when you were born either. According to the Buddha's teaching, that timeline, if you can imagine, it extends right across here. I'm not going to mark myself up because I might want to wear this again. And then goes all the way out that way and continues since beginningless time. Inconceivable timeline. According to the Buddha's teaching, we have been incarnate in one form or another, involved in cyclic existence, revolving in samsara since beginningless time. Beginningless time means just that. We do not have the capacity in our minds at this point to understand beginningless time. We can only understand a time. And if you give us a date, we can try to compute the reality of that date. But the Buddha teaches us that samsara is a circular kind of reality, and that we cannot actually conceive of that first time, when we first arrived at the conclusion or the assumption of self-nature as being inherently real. And that is the moment when, for us, samsara began. So we think of this time grid as being really endless. Since we're thinking of this as time and this as space, we have to try to understand the nature of karma, cause and effect, as it actually plays itself out. If we think that, according to the Buddha's teaching, there is cause and effect, and that what we are experiencing now in this time and space grid is actually due to some cause that was brought about somewhere in the past, then we have to think of seeds of cause and effect that are ripening now at this point. We also have to consider that not all seeds of cause and effect are ripening at this point, that some of them will ripen in the future. Well, that's logical if you think about it. If I say to you, let's say I go up to Shandor and I punch him in the nose. Well, Shandor, being a good student, probably won't punch me back. But there will be some repercussion to that. Perhaps in some future life he will. If not in some future life, then perhaps he'll go home and he'll think about the fact that I punched him in the nose. And he'll have some thoughts about that. And those thoughts will be like seeds, and the seeds will bear fruit. Either good fruit, if he's a good student, he'll think, maybe that was a wrathful display. Or if he's a bad student, or an intermediate student, he might think, I'd like to hit her back. So whatever it is that he thinks about, those thoughts will ripen, and they will ripen in some future time. So not all seeds ripen in the present moment. Where are those seeds? I don't see them. Do you see them floating around somewhere? Do you see seeds floating around? No, they're not floating around in any visible way that we can understand, but they actually, in a sense, are part of the fabric of the content of our mind streams. If we understand our mind streams to be a continuum that is based on understanding the time and space event, the crossroads, and understanding that that if we consider ourselves to be a self or an item, that we have to express a continuum in order for that self to actually exist. If there were no self, there would be no other. Self has to have a continuum to move through, or it cannot remain coherent. It cannot remain as it is. It would simply dissipate naturally if there were no sense of continuum. So the mind stream is actually expressed as a continuum, in a sense. And embedded within our mind stream, and let's say that this is past, just for the sake of convenience. This is a very bad way to think of things because it's just too superficial. But if you're going to have a picture, this is really the only one that works. Let's say that this is past. Okay, time and space timeline's going all the way past there. Let's say this is space. So let's say, for convenience sake, that this, on this side of space, and continuing along on time, but on this side of space, is future. Can't print either, can I? But that this is the time and space grid. This is the moment of focus, the point of power. So the mind stream being expressed as continuum would contain within it all karmic potential. All karmic potential is contained within the mind stream. Where else would it be? Is my karmic potential contained within your mind stream? Is it in the forest? Is it in the ocean? Where is it? All karmic potential, of course, must be contained within the mind stream. In a sense, all the things that we have done, thought, all the reactions that we have had since time out of mind are contained in seed form within our mind stream. And I'm putting it on this side because we think of causes that have already been born as being in the past. So, now I'm making these little circles so big enough so that you can see them, but you must understand that if we're thinking of karmic potential, we have been involved in samsara since time out of mind. The thickness, the amount of karmic potential that is within our mind stream is unfathomable. It is unfathomable. Every moment that we have a reaction or a thought, or any time that an event occurs, a cause and effect relationship is actually begun. And they actually arise interdependently. It seems as though cause is over here and result is over there, or cause is over here and result is over here. But in fact, that's not true. The time and space continuum is only a concept that arose at the same time as the clinging to self-nature. But in fact, they arise interdependently at the same moment. Cause and result arise at the same moment. Within our mind stream, there are tiny, like a little thought here, a little thought there, a little thought there, a little thought there, and it fills up as many dots in there as, you ever looked at newsprint? You know what newsprint looks like? It just consists of a bunch of dots, doesn't it? Have you ever seen that? Yes or no? Yeah. You've looked closely at news. I have to know if I'm registering here. Look at the newsprint and you can see that it just consists of dots. Well, it's like that in terms of the cause and effect ripening. But there are big things that you've done. Let's say you did something wonderful. Let's say you practiced in the past. That would be a great, big, wonderful thing. Let's say you killed somebody in the past. That's possible, you know. In fact, count on it. So that's a bad one. And we're going to color that one to indicate no good. This is bad. And let's say you helped somebody, but you did it with mixed motivation somewhere in the past, 10 lifetimes ago. So you helped somebody, that's good, but the motivation was mixed. So it's kind of like that. And let's say that you loved your mother, but you kind of hated her a little bit too. So there, it's like that. The experience that human beings can have is endless, alone. And what about all the other life forms that are contained within samsara? The Buddha teaches us that we have moved through so many different kinds of experiences. They are not only human. The Buddha teaches us that in cyclic existence there are 6 realms of experience, both form, and there are form and formless realms as well. And we should understand that we have moved through all kinds of different experiences according to the potential of our minds. There are tremendous, impactful things that we have done. Let's say in the past we have practiced Dharma, and let's say in the past that we have, what have we done? Let's say we built a stupa. How many of us here have built a stupa so far? No, nice students, don't even think about raising your hand. I meant those people. So build a stupa. Let's say we built a stupa. And that would be a huge, big, shiny, wonderful, beautiful cause that is ripening in your mind stream even now. This, first of all, this board would be filled with seeds like that. Tiny, tiny ones, tiny little thoughts, little reactions, just little bitty things. And then big things you've done, big causes that you've actually brought about. But this board would have to continue since time out of mind. It would have to be a board like you wouldn't believe. It would have to be a board with no end for us to understand what this actually is. It's bigger than a bread box, and that's what I'm trying to explain here. When you consider the nature of a sentient being, we usually consider that nature in a very superficial way. We look at ourselves and we say, okay, let's pick on Shandor today. I'm Shandor. I have this particular characteristic. I'm like this. I usually react in this way. I look like this. I act like this. When someone does this to me, I feel like this. I felt like this yesterday. I'm going to feel like this tomorrow. Therefore, I'm Shandor. And it's actually like that. It's actually like that. We put ourselves we cultivate this habitual tendency, and we take from that habitual tendency what we think we are. And we really live with that. We hook into that. We breathe that. We live it. We eat it. We love it. We love it. We We love it so much. It's inconceivable how much we love that. And we just slurp that stuff right up. And that's how we consider ourselves as sentient beings. What if we were able to consider ourselves in this way? What if we were able to consider ourselves as nothing other than this picture, this emanation, this movement, this awareness that seems to focus itself at this moment in this present time and space grid. And that the only thing that makes us react in certain ways are these karmic bubbles, if you will, that are rising to the surface. But what if we understood as well that we have so many different kinds of bubbles? You know, we have real difficult ones, we have real nice ones, we have sort of half and half ones. They all have certain qualities. We have some great ones, you know. We've got some big bad ones too. Woo! Some big nasties. It's like, And that the whole board, since time out of mind, is filled with that. And if we understand that at this point, we are actually, in a sense, meeting with our future, we are meeting with our environment, we're actually meeting with our environment. And so that everything that occurs in our environment, like other people who are also moving along their own time and space grid, just in the same way, and who have, here I'm making two people facing each other nose to nose, if you'll let me do this in a particular and peculiar right brain fashion. These people are meeting each other nose to nose, and let's say this person has the same stuff going on as this one, which they do. So this person has seeds that are ripening, and this person has seeds that are ripening, and they're meeting each other, and what happens here is they tend to catalyze one another. They tend to catalyze through their union. And the union can be as casual as meeting someone in a grocery store. And the union can be as profound as meeting one's guru. Or as meeting one's life partner, or something like that. Of those kinds of meetings, the one with the most potency, actually, the one that can catalyze and has the potential to catalyze the most, is the meeting with one's guru. And the reason for that is that through the force of the guru's practice, through the accumulated merit of the guru's mind, through the miraculous compassionate intention that the guru actually appears in the world for. What one is meeting when one meets one's guru looks a lot like this. Big, pretty, white things. Shiny, sun-like, wonderful. Yum, 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 yum. Nice, nice, nice. And so what actually happens is there is a catalyst that is taking place here, catalyzing action that is taking place here, that will tend to bring forth the best that you have to offer. You see? It will tend to bring it forth, and the way that that happens is that almost in a vibrational way, like draws like. In a vibrational way, and you'll actually feel that. You will feel this coming to the surface. You'll feel something happen. That's what actually begins to happen. If back here in the South 40, you have the karma of practice, then meeting with your teacher is going to speed that ripening to the point where you can almost feel yourself quaking inside. Now, many students have actually had that experience and have felt like, what's going on back here? You know, what's happening to me? Wah! And they get kind of crazed, you know, and have a very profound and moving and meaningful experience. And sometimes they react actually very badly to it. They don't really know what to do with it. But it feels like your life just ended, you know, and it feels like you've been reborn, and it feels like that scares the patooties out of you. But what actually is happening is that whatever beneficial karma you have back there is rapidly moving to the surface of your mind to actually enter into the time and space grid potency that you yourself think of yourself as. And it's almost like bubbles coming to the surface of a pond, the way in which that ripens. This thing here that you call your personality, silly you, not knowing any better, is only an intersecting point. That personality has the capacity to change at any moment. And it changes no differently than the surface of a pond would change as the bubbles move to the surface of the pond. I mean, the pond has certain characteristics, of course. Being here in cyclic existence as human beings, we have certain characteristics. We're not going to grow another arm, or grow another head out the side of our head that we have. There are certain characteristics that will remain due to the fact that we are in a communal or collective time and space experience. But there's no limit to what can happen at this moment. And I've seen it go both ways, haven't you? I certainly have. I've seen a student meet with the path and actually have a very difficult reaction to that. Now, what is that reaction based on? What is actually happening there? What's happening there is that perhaps in the past, and this is all it is, folks, all it is, what's happening in the past is that, let's say that student practiced. So they got a big, nice, shiny, bright thing, pure bubble coming to the surface of the pond that's going to ripen as the person meets their teacher and meets the path. Let's say in that past experience, that person practiced and maybe didn't keep their practice commitment very purely, didn't practice very purely, did not practice well or with concentration, or even practiced for the wrong reasons, or mixed in worldly concerns with spiritual ones, meaning to say they practiced so that they could be a good practitioner rather than practicing in a sincere and profound way. So let's say that while this is very good, it's mixed. Now what happens when the student meets with the path is one can never really predict how these bubbles are going to come to the surface of the pond. One can never really understand exactly how that's going to happen. It's really kind of unpredictable. The teacher with some skill can help with that. The teacher who really knows the student and can see what is ripening, what is coming to the surface of the student's mind, can be of some benefit, can really can try to draw certain things forward. And sometimes the ways of doing that are not easily understood. Like the teacher may show a wrathful display to purify this, you see? Or the teacher may show a very kind face, a very almost seductive, kind face, in order to turn this around and have it present in that way. There are many different things that can actually be done. But for the most part, this is very difficult to predict, and one can never know. Sometimes when the student meets the path, what can actually happen here is that this mixed karma will begin to ripen. And as it begins to ripen, the student will come to the path and will meet with the auspicious opportunity and will be able to and the teacher will see the potential in the student, and there's really something there. What will happen is the student will have a very bad reaction. Like the student will turn their face away and say, "Oh, I can't do this. No, it's not for me. I've got to walk away from this." Or the student will say, sometimes react with anger, as I was talking about last week, for no apparent reason. The student will meet with the path and suddenly have a spurt of angry days, just some. And sometimes the student will feel a sense of grieving because they realize that they've just left a portion of their life and moved into a whole new experience within their lives. There can be some difficult things. Often what happens here, due to the mixed environment within one's mind stream, and it is a mixed environment within one's mind stream, due to a student's mixed karma, is what actually happens here is a mixed appearance that one will see. And it's mixed, you see. At the same time, that beneficial karma ripens and brings the student to the path and makes this dynamic interaction so fantastic, so marvelous, and the student is feeling this amazing change, this amazing, potent growth, like nothing they've ever felt before. At the same time that that's happening, what is coming to the surface of their mind also are obstacles. Obstacles, and they must be understood only as that, because the danger is, and here's where your responsibility really comes in, the danger is that the student may say, oh, that's the reaction that I'm having. I really don't like this very much. Or, I can't do this. Or, this isn't for me. Or, well, I have to think about it. Or whatever it is that the student reacts as. If you say to yourself, oh, that's how I am, that's how I'm reacting, this is just me, and I kind of have to go with it, you are reacting like a child. Like, it's superficial. There's nothing to that. And it's baloney. It's just flat out baloney. But if you could understand that what's happening here are ripenings that are coming to the surface of the mind, and that you are seeing, basically you are looking in a mirror. When you see your teacher, you are looking in the mirror. You are seeing the reflection of your own mind stream. You are looking at yourself. That's all you see when you see your teacher. You are looking at yourself. If you see benefit, if you see an auspicious circumstance arising, you can bet that what's coming forward are these guys, the real beauties, and you're seeing that. But if you see something different, that is a very negative reaction, a very lethargic reaction, the inability to take hold of the opportunity, the rejection or something like that, you must understand that what is probably happening here, what is happening here, is that mixed karma is ripening, and some negative karma is coming to the surface as well. These karmic seeds cannot be understood as individual things either. You must understand that just as you go through the day and one moment builds on another, seems to build on another, doesn't it? I mean, you don't have an isolated moment any time during the day. Everything is catalyzed by everything else. It's real built on each other. It's the same thing with the karmic seeds within your mind stream. If you understood that these karmic seeds are often linked together like this, that even if you do bring forth this, let's say this the lifetime where you built a stupa, which you couldn't ask for better karma than that. That's great. Let's say this is coming forth, this is being catalyzed and coming to the surface. But let's say in the same life, when you were younger, before you did that, you stole some money and you, I don't know, beat somebody up, and let's say you were before you got the big picture, were real lusty and committed adultery and blah blah blah, whatever it is that you did, drugs. I didn't pay them drugs back then, did they? Well, anyway, I don't know, something, and all this stuff's tagged on there. It's actually connected. It's actually in that same experience, almost like linking karma. So as this comes forward, you're still going to feel some of that. There's no way to get around it. You're still going to feel some of that. Will you be smart enough? That's the question. To recognize that for what it is? Will you understand that what you're seeing is a reflection of your own mind stream? Will you be able to look at yourself and say, it will pass. It's all right. It's okay. No big deal. Like that. So important. That is so important. Will you be able to take responsibility for that and say, I'm seeing a reflection of my own mind. This lethargy that's coming up, this inability to act, this impotence, this anger, this bad reaction, this, well, I better think about this kind of reaction. You know that one, do you? Yeah. That one coming forward. Will you be able to look at that and say, that is simply bubbles rising to the surface, no big deal. You don't have to look at that and say, that's me, because that's not you. These are simply the bubbles rising to the surface. They are simply something within your mind stream, embedded within this experience of continuum. But what are you? The Buddha teaches us that we have never had any taste of our own primordial wisdom nature. That in fact that is the truth of what we are. In our nature, we are the very Lord. In our nature, we are the primordial wisdom nature. We are uncontrived, pure luminosity, the same as Lord Buddha himself. In our nature, we are that very Lord, the all-pervasive, foundational Ah. That is our nature. Nothing other than that. But we can't see it because we mistake this for our nature. And we say, I am this, and I am that, and I am this, and I am that. And we get caught up. We've never tasted it. And we have so much habitual tendency. It's just the habit. It's a knee-jerk reaction. We haven't been doing this little dance since yesterday. We've been doing that since time out of mind. And our experience of continuum is nothing other than an experience of habitual tendency. And the habit is so deep. It's not like a smoker's habit. It's not like a drinker's habit. Oh, that's a piece of cake. This has been happening since time out of mind. Immediately, we conceive of self-nature as being this. Immediately, we engage in reaction to other, which, from the point of view of the primordial nature, that is our true nature, in pure view, would not be possible. Would not be possible. So what happens to us is we meet with the path. And then, what? Do we just float away on our reactions? Or do we make hay while the sun shines? It's an old expression that my mother used to say. I don't know where she got that from. She was born in New York. Anyway, they don't have hay in New York. They have in New York. But anyway, when we meet with the path, we must view ourselves in this way so that we can be competent, able to continue. Things will rise to the surface of your mind that you won't believe. And yet potential, potency will come into your life that you also will not believe. You must learn to look at yourself in a less superficial manner. You must understand what we're dealing with here. If you understand that this is what it is, you will understand that the point of power is yours, that you have the power to demonstrate change. You don't have to get stuck on these things. You don't have to get stuck thinking, I'm like this, and this is like that, and that's like that. That's the sticking point, isn't it? That's the point at which we become impotent. The Buddha provides a method. The Buddha says that when you first meet the path, the first thing that you want to do is to start gathering merit. Immediately. You make offerings to the altar, you say wishing prayers to benefit sentient beings, you start walking around the stupa. Boy, I tell you, if I were just starting on the path and I just didn't know how I was going to handle it, I would make such a ring around the stupa that it would be, where there would be a hole, you could tell it would be a rung, 6 feet down, I'd still be walking around the stupa. They'd have to fill it in after I finished with it. Gathering that kind of merit, making offerings at the altar, saying prayers, generating compassion, doing practice, mantra recitation, visualization, all of these things, accumulating 7-line prayer, an excellent way to accumulate merit. I would do everything that I could to accumulate merit because that accumulation of merit, if you can do it, means that one of these guys is coming forward. And if one of these guys comes forward, it catalyzes another one coming forward. And if another one comes forward, it catalyzes another one coming forward. And that is what you want. You want to take control of it. You don't want to sit around and say, I'm like this and that's like that. That's powerless. That's useless. What's the point? What you want to do is to catalyze your own realization. When you begin on the path, all of the negative stuff doesn't just go away. It just doesn't, you can't just take the magician's point of view and say, oh, okay, I'm on the path now, so that's the magic formula, so therefore everything else is gone. It's not like that. That's crazy. Karma always ripens. But what actually happens when you get on the path is that all these guys tend to move forward. When they move forward, what you have at your moment of experience, is you have some space. You have some space. And according to the gathering and coming forth and ripening of this beneficial karma, and according to the spaciousness that you experience in your mind as that happens, and that will be your experience as that happens, according to the spaciousness in your mind, it is possible to see the primordial view. It is possible to awaken. It doesn't mean that all this stuff's gone. It means that you begin to understand the view that is demonstrated in the practice of Vajrayana, where, for instance, in the prayers of Vajrasattva, it is said, in a confession prayer particularly, that one realizes the non-duality of the confessor and that which is to be confessed. And at that moment of spaciousness and pure awareness, when one realizes the non-duality of the confessor and what is to be confessed, where then is samsara? Where then is the obstacle? In one's mind, in one's nature, one becomes awake to that non-duality, and therefore this is understood to be nothing, just a shadow. But that understanding is necessary, else it's not a shadow, it's for real. So that's basically, in a nutshell, what's going to happen to you as you meet the path, as you begin to interact with the path, interact with your teacher, particularly that. That's a very, very potent point of catalyzing, or catalyzing point, I should say. Very potent. How you react at that moment is everything. Everything. You must take yourself in hand. And how you react additionally at every moment when you intersect with the path. And you know, there are moments in your life, even when you're already on the path, that you intersect with the path more profoundly. Isn't that true? Times when you float and times when you're in there. Isn't that right? At those moments, you have something. And how you engage is everything. You are not this. You are not hooked into being any certain way. Understand your nature. Think of your nature as a lake or a pond in which bubbles are simply rising. You have a choice. You can gather together the virtue and merit necessary to ripen them beneficially. You can use that. Or you can go to sleep and just react. You want to just react? Because when you just react is anything comes forward. Anything comes forward. And if you just kind of go to sleep on it, kind of sit on it, don't do much with it, all the karma that you have in the past, and I mean the past, of slothfulness, ignorance, will be catalyzed. It will ripen. Do you want that? Of course you don't want that. You have to think and take control. The great thing about Dharma, the great thing about the Buddha's teaching is that it puts in your hand a jewel, a wish-fulfilling jewel. You don't wait for things to work out. You don't hope for the best. You don't just make prayers and just go, well, I made my prayers. That's it. You have a jewel in your hand, which is a wish-fulfilling jewel, and you have the power. It is yours to do. But, on the other hand, you must do it. And no one else can. You are responsible for your reaction. What will you do? You are responsible for how you engage. What will you do? That's the beauty, and also, in a sense, the difficulty of the path. The beauty is that it's yours. Liberation's not out there. It's not something you have to wait for. Right there. You have the wish-fulfilling jewel. But on the other hand, it's up to you. And you've got to do it. You can't sleep on this one, and you can't slide through. For the first time in your life, you have to know that you can't just slide through. So pull yourself together, basically. It's just like I've said so many times before. On this path, the message is the ball is in your court. But it is in your court. That's never happened to you before. You've never had the option. You've always wanted to be happy, but you've never had the option to make happiness. You've never had the option of understanding its causes and how to make it happen. So the message that you first receive when you first move onto the path is, wake up! Thank you. He just jumped right up there. Wake up and love yourself. Take a hold of yourself like no one has ever done for you before. You do it because no one else can. So, I wanted to give this teaching in order to help us to really get ourselves geared up, but I also wanted to give this teaching because some of you, I've had a sense of new students coming to, I'm going to move over here, I think, of new students who are coming to the path now. Some of you are going to be students that really stick with it, that you're going to do something here. And so I'm speaking to those of you who know I'm speaking to you. Get the picture. Everything that you do now is important. This is your time. This is your time. So if you can hear that and feel it and really go with it, the blessings will be without end. And those of you that will be here for a little while and then will go, take what you can of that message and that blessing and take it with you. But if you can, practice the path and practice it in such a way so that you will not suffer any longer and so that you will be able to accomplish the purpose of sentient beings. And the purpose of sentient beings is that their suffering should be ended and that they should reach enlightenment. It's the same as your purpose. And only through practicing the path can you make that happen. So thank you very much for listening. You've listened so carefully. I really appreciate what I feel coming from you. Thank you very much. So.